We'll resume. Very fancy. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Changemaker Tuesday of 2022 on the 22nd of the 2nd, 2022. And at some point during this, if you're from down south, it'll be 2 o'clock. So what we're going to do today is, let me just share my screen. Share my screen. Share my screen. There we go. All right. Share my screen. Come on, little share screen. There we go. All right. So I am going to admit people as we go along. This recording will be available later on, and hopefully I can just make it speaker view. Excellent. So welcome today. So like I said, today we're talking about impact measurement tactics with Lara from Social Good Outpost. And let's kick this off. So we always do, hi Harry. We always do acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which QSEC stands. So we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we gather today. So we are all over Brisbane and all over Queensland, and we pay respect to the elders, customs and creation spirits, and we acknowledge the important role Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within the QSEC community. All right, so for those of you who don't know or who haven't joined a Changemaker Tuesday session before, we are a member-driven organisation. If you're not a member, we can talk about membership. We do, oh, look, all the people coming in. Hello, people. We do have a lot of really core outcomes that we are trying to achieve, and that's to connect, support, learn and advocate for social enterprises in Queensland and across the nation. And there's so much happening in 2022 with social enterprise that you're going to learn about. And after the session today, if you do want to hang around and learn how to get more out of your membership, then you can do that by just hanging around, and I will have a chat about that afterwards. Now, we are talking about impact measurement tactics today, and I will show you afterwards, but over in our online learning centre, we actually have a bunch of courses that you can do afterwards that are going to, that are going to support your learning and help you grow in this space. So theory of change, and I will show you all this again later, theory of change, impact measurement reporting, measuring impact, and impact measurement for impact investing, which is pretty cool. All right, so all the people are joining. Now, stop share because I don't want to share anymore. Oh, that's all right. Sorry, guys, my screen's just gone nuts with all the people joining. It doesn't like it. All right, let me just, if you do want to join, so if you are interested in joining, which is perfectly cool, and as you should be, if you are interested in joining, what you can do is use this code QSEC_friends and you'll receive 50% off your first year of membership. So I can see a chat, and I'm going to cross my fingers that it's Rachel putting QSEC_friends into the chat. If you do want to talk about anything social enterprise, anything Queensland social enterprise, my name's Leanne Butterworth. You can always find me at leanne@qsec.org.au. So I'm going to stop share again. Now, up the top of the screen, you can hopefully, fingers crossed, see Lara. You can see me. You can see Rachel, who is our marketing guru, and you can see Elise, who is our CEO. Now, ladies, is there anything that you guys want to share that's happening at the moment that we need to tell our lovely people? Because we're up to 26. Look at all the lovely people.
I just want to say hi, guys. Wow, what a Christmas, what a year. And welcome back to 2022. Let's see if we can get through these next few months of hopefully shifting COVID along, on you go, and reinvesting and reinvigorating our businesses. So looking forward to an awesome year. Stay tuned for heaps more things coming up for QSEC. We've got new staff members joining us, and we'll take some time to introduce them at some stage as well. But so much is happening at QSEC. It's just amazing. And for social enterprises across Queensland. So it's a good time to be a social enterprise in Queensland.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent. All right, so today we are talking about impact measurement tactics. Lara, I'm going to hand over to Lara in a second. We are taking a bit of a different tack because impact measurement's what got you here. Impact measurement can be quite scary. And that's why a lot of us go, I'll do it later. I'll do it when I'm making more money. I'll do it when I've got more people. But what we're going to try and show you today is how to create a starting point so that you're looking at measuring the right things so that you can use it for the right reasons. And then from there, you can start to really communicate the impact that you're having. Now, like I said, there are courses in Qualc that are going to support this learning. You can always talk to me, you can talk to Lara. If you do have any questions today, Rachel's going to be monitoring the chat, so please ask any questions that you would like to ask. We are recording this, so I did hit record, didn't I? Yes, I did. Okay, I get paranoid. All right, lovely people, I'm going to hand over to Lara, and fingers crossed she can share her screen. Because Lara and I have been talking impact measurement for quite a while now, so this is pretty cool. All right, here we go. I'm going to mute myself.
All right, now can you see my screen? Is that all sharing? Perfecto.
Yep, all good.
All right. Hi, I'm Lara Stephenson and I am from Social Good Outpost, and we're a design and communications studio primarily, and we also work primarily with just social enterprises. So we're really focused on the design, strategy and communication for social enterprise by social enterprise. And I'm thrilled to have been asked to come here and chat to you today and be part of a QSEC lunchtime learning session. So I hope that you get something really useful out of this. This talk has been designed with lots and lots of links in it. So don't worry about writing them down, because I'll make sure that you can get access to this afterwards, because there's lots of resources for you to explore once we've had this initial introduction to everything. So yeah, I really hope that you find it useful. So we are talking about impact measurement today, but as Leanne said, we're talking about it through the lens of outcomes. So just to refresh our memory on where we are, this is a really simple kind of logic model or theory of change up on the screen. So we've got like your business, your suppliers, your situation, your business focus on the left, all the way through to your impact on the right. And anybody who's already made a logic model or theory of change, you're in a really excellent position already, because you have an idea of what social issue that you're focused on, your suppliers, how your business is, the input, what you need, time, money, people, resources, different types, what you do, the activities, that's like your services, your workshops, all of the things that you're doing. And this is where we are trying to show that it's quite easy to measure, like outputs. That's your activities. That's like, we ran 12 workshops this last year with 100 participants. We want to move one step beyond there, but one step back from the really scary kind of big picture SDG impact area. So alleviating poverty is out there in impact. Running a workshop on thrifty living is in the activities section. We're trying to look in between those things. So this is the outcomes section, the very special section that records the change that our beneficiaries are experiencing. So I hope this is making sense as to where we're focused today. So we're really going to be focused in this outcomes section all throughout this session here. So just to kind of look at this in a different way, and I've fallen into this myself. I throughout measuring impact, I've been able to say, oh, look, I've worked with 100 different organizations this year, and 80% of them were women-owned, and we gave away 20 hours of pro bono work. That's all true, or it's made up, but it's all facts, and it's all things that I've been able to record as I go. But that's pretty much an output. That's what did I do? This is this blue section. When was it? Who I talked to? And it doesn't really tell us yet what happened because of the workshops that I ran, and what happened with those people that attended those workshops. So what we are really hoping to look at and change the view from being talking to 100 women about their businesses, we're looking more at what did those 100 women take away from our workshop. So we have this really great acronym of ABC, nice to remember. So we're looking at the change in attitudes, behaviors, or conditions because of the workshop, or the service we provided, or the free hours we gave to somebody, or the products that we've provided to a community. This is where knowing who your beneficiaries are from your previous logic model and theory of change really comes in handy, because we want to know what changed in your beneficiaries' lives, in their attitudes, behaviors, and conditions. In my business, my beneficiaries are very similar to my customers, because I often provide the same service to both, which is design or strategy in their communications. But for instance, like the Who Gives a Crap company, their customers are very different to their beneficiaries. So make sure you get clear in your own mind who your beneficiaries are. Usually they might be somebody, the group of people that your enterprise is targeting in your social enterprise vision. So in any case, that's why I have written client here, just because sometimes there's an overlap, but usually it is a separate group, this beneficiaries. So we're looking for them to have a change in their attitude. This might be like understanding, knowledge, awareness, skills. So they might come out of your workshop feeling that they definitely have more skills in order to launch their new product, or have more knowledge in how to tackle an interview more confidently, or more confidence to go to a job interview. We also have behaviors, which is how people behave. Like you can record the level of litter in a particular neighborhood before and after a campaign against, anti-littering or environmental protection. You can measure behaviors in the form of decisions or policies that are taken before and after your intervention or workshop, and also in conditions. So we're going to go into some examples so we can picture this in a moment, but these are some examples like health, living conditions, safety, such as safety at nighttime before and after installation of like lighting, for instance. The main thing to remember is that you always looking at the before picture and the after picture. So it's good to have data that pinpoints those 2 points in time. And of course, you can keep measuring again in the future.
If you don't have the capacity to measure before and after, so sometimes it's not possible, but it's making sure that the questions that you ask, and we're going to go into this, it's making sure that the questions that you ask attribute any of those ABCs. We'll get to that, Amanda. It's attributing any of those ABCs back to your workshop. And we're going to give you some good examples of that. So yeah, just making sure that if you can't do it before and after, because these are your two options. One is measure ABCs before, do your intervention, measure ABCs after. see if you can measure the change. Or you ask, you may or may not do a before workshop, before questionnaire. You might just look at stats. You might look at the size of the problem, and then afterwards you might ask if, because of your participation, have any of these things changed? So let's say we're in a jobs-focused social enterprise. That's when you can really start to see, oh, because of my participation and my job at Lagoon Creek, I've changed my attitudes, I've changed my behavior, my health has improved. And so we're going to go through ideas of how to ask these questions. And Lara, did we do the benefits of doing all of this, or is that coming up?
It might be coming up. Okay. Yeah, no, that's coming up.
Yeah, cool. Right, bye.
Oh, I don't have a slide for it, but we should definitely talk about the benefits of doing this. Yes, which I'll do now. So the benefits of all of this, I think a lot of you will have come across this, particularly in grants or in funding applications, where it says, please show us evidence of your social enterprise, or please show us basically evidence of what you're saying that you are doing. So it's really, so measuring these outcomes and having a record of that is really, really useful in funding applications. Also for down the track, obviously for impact investment, really, really interested in both your business performance, but your impact performance, so to speak. But day to day, it's also extremely useful in terms of the your clients, like your clients, your customers, being able to say that you are doing what you say you're doing and show how, whether that's through a story, testimonials, facts, data, responses from participants. It can both help sell your service and prove your credibility, and also help beneficiaries to understand what it is that, say you're offering a free service, like what might they get out of it, and really tell real life stories about what they're going to get out of your activities. Yeah,
absolutely. And it also helps with continuous improvement. So I've done an impact measurement once upon a time that we realized we were getting absolutely the opposite impact of what we had hoped for, which meant that we really quickly needed to change what we were doing, change our methodology. So continuous improvement, you can use this stuff in, like Lara said, in your marketing, in your grants. Customers want to know this, and people are getting much more savvy into the outputs versus outcomes. So if we have a look in, I mean, some of the examples out in the big bad world are people, let's say corporate social responsibility, going, we donated this much money, or we volunteered this many hours. You go, okay, that's nice. What did that achieve? So that's the questions that social enterprise are being asked more and more and more, is giving ourselves credibility and validity to what we're doing, so that we're able to say, we did this, it achieved this, we made this difference. Okay, so there's so many benefits to getting this, not getting it right, because it's one of those, how long is a piece of string? So it's taking away that almost perfectionism mindset of we need to get this right. Is we need to start doing something, we need to stop being afraid of it, and we need to start measuring and communicating the right things in terms of what tells our story.
We do have a question that's come in. Are we waiting to the end for questions?
We can have it questions anytime.
Okay, so Tanya from Learn, Grow, Become has said, my clients are big institutions and one of my beneficiary groups is not a direct contact because of privacy. So any suggestions on how to identify the impact when there might be privacy issues involved?
So Lara, do you want to do this, or you want me to take it?
You look like you're about to say something, so you can answer first.
So that's where our theory of change comes in really, really handy. Okay, if we can't measure our impact because it's big picture stuff, we need to look at who it is that we're actually interacting with and who it is that is having the change. So yes, our impact beneficiary might be major. Like I do empathy training, the ultimate beneficiary, the people on the other end of the empathy, but I can't ask them. But what I can do is ask the people who I have direct contact with and ask them particular questions about how they change their attitudes, behavior, and conditions. Then with some assumptions and some research, we can say, well, we think that if this happened, then this happened. So that's one of the ways, is to look at what you actually have access to, because we cannot claim things that we do not have access to. So I cannot say, hey, empathy training increases retention, if I don't have access to an organization's retention data, I cannot attribute it back to me. If it's a privacy thing, I can't use that, but I can look at who I have direct interactions with and what changes those individuals experience as a result of my intervention. And then we can make some evidence-based assumptions that because of those attitude, behavior, and condition changes, these bigger impacts would occur. Does that answer your question, Tanya?
Yeah, kind of like, and that's kind of how I've done it in the past. So I've been lucky in that I've been able to do a research project, and we've got another one going. So being able to sort of say, okay, well, when we had this research group here, we found that these were the impacts, and so therefore it's reasonable to assume that this is the impact that we're having generally. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, a lot of us don't have access to data science research groups, controlled studies, all that sort of stuff. So we kind of have to look at what we have access to at the time. And if some of us don't even have access to before and after, or before data. So it's looking at the reliability of what we can get access to, and that's where the ABCs and your theory of change come in really nicely. But yeah, looking at that attribution of what are we actually attributing to our intervention and what could just be something else. Like if we say, hey, we're reducing heart disease, and we look at the Australia-wide heart disease stats and go, oh, hello, look what we did. Like, do you know how many heart disease interventions there are? So we look at what we have, I guess, access to.
We can take another question. Luke has his hand up.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. So I've got a fairly specific example around this. I'm just about to resubmit a grant, an advocacy grant. And last year I put it in, got rejected, saying I didn't understand theory of change. And I actually have done quite a few, or been involved in a few. And one of the reasons they gave is that they weren't satisfied that I demonstrated that our proposal would actually lead to the impact that we were going to get to. And so we don't have any data, and it's something that doesn't happen in Queensland. It's around energy efficiency for low-income households. And so the Queensland government doesn't have any policy. They've not really done anything in the past. They've done a few climate smart home services and so on. But when you don't have the data, either yours or anyone else's, how do you demonstrate that your impact is going to be reached when you are making assumptions? And they also criticise me for making assumptions, even though you need to make assumptions to do a theory of change. So yeah, I'm just sort of wondering if there's any ideas around how do we demonstrate our impacts will occur. And I included monitoring and evaluation in the proposal. So yeah, I'm a bit lost on this one. It's quite specific, I acknowledge that.
So when they asked about so you did a theory of change with lots of assumptions in it. There's no data to show that your black box, so what it is that you're actually doing, does result in. Have you done any pilot studies?
No, and I didn't do a theory of change. The proposal, they require a theory of change as part of your project.
So the gap, Lara, if you go back a couple of slides. Yeah, there. So the gaps in between, so you can see input to activities, activities to outcomes, outcomes to impact. It's the chevron in between each of those. That's where our evidence-based research comes in. So that's where we really need to dig into. It might be overseas, it might be academic research, it might be what other companies have achieved, other people's impact models. But the chevrons is where our research comes in to say, actually, evidence shows that if I have these inputs, I can do these activities. If I have if I do these activities, then, so it's a big if then. If I do these activities, then these outcomes will occur based on this research. This is why I believe this. This is why we do this. If people change ABC and we achieve these outcomes, then we achieve this impact. So you can sort of loop it all the way back and go, actually, if I had $50,000, I'd be able to run these activities. If we do these activities, we get these outcomes. If we get these activities, if we do these outcomes, we get this impact. But the chevrons is where the research lies. That's where we've got to dig into the data. We've got to dig into what's happening in the industry. We've got to dig into what's happening overseas. We've got to dig into the academics, so Google Scholar, and we have to find somebody who's done this before, because that's where the risk is taken out. So what a lot of grant readers will do is they'll go, well, that's nice, but that's an idea, and we don't fund ideas. We fund evidence. So if you're able to pull a bunch of academic studies and say, actually, look, they've done this, we're doing that, this is what they've achieved, this is what we anticipate achieving, then your application has a lot more rigor. If you can explain it in terms that are more concrete, then I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that is really helpful. But I did actually say I gave example of 2 campaigns in Victoria and New South Wales. So it's yeah, I'm meeting them straight after this session as well. So,
but yeah, it's the evidence and being able to cite evidence that really sticks these pieces of their theory of change puzzle together.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Lara, as you were.
No worries. So we'll quickly have a little look at this. So just to kind of show this in a little example. So the activity, say it is training guide dogs. This is a graphic I've taken from Social Ventures. So I've just made some extra words here. So their outcome was people with low vision have more independence if you train guide dogs. But there's actually a few like mini steps that you could actually measure before you can say people with low vision have more independence. You could say, do the people with the guide dogs now feel more confident? Are they able to navigate outside of their home better? Are more questions which break down this. They've got more independence that you can ask and test and see has your guide dog contributed to their more independence. And then the impact is further over here on the right hand side, where it might be better quality of life or equal quality of life, whether you're sighted or non-sighted. So that would be a bigger piece. So this was like a mini example. I have another example which I'm more familiar with and can talk through you just to picture this as well, because this is one that I faced on my business. So one of our desired social outcomes is that women have greater financial independence. That's pretty big. And so I'm also breaking that down into through running their own business successfully. So this is our kind of client base, but as well as being our client base, it's our beneficiary base, because we also give pro bono hours. So yeah, I'm still talking about my beneficiaries here. So I'm looking on the left-hand side, women, our target beneficiary, but you could say women running their own business as well. We want to see a positive change in this ABC, attitudes, behaviors, and conditions. So I'm saying financial stability here, which is a condition, but there's definitely attitudes and behaviors as well that we can add into that. And the impact on the right-hand side, we are hoping that what we're doing contributes to the greater well-being, choice to make your own life how you want it to because of this financial independence. And we know that our design and advice and business stuff may contribute just a tiny slice to that, but we'd still like to see, are we helping or hurting we hope to be helping this outcome. So this is where we can have a little look at things that I can measure to see, am I contributing to this positive change in financial stability for women? So one of the things, as a result of training, if we're doing a skills workshop or design, if we're making them some new branding, for instance, do they feel like they have greater knowledge and skills in running their business, like online, using tools? Do they feel increased confidence in their business and message, which is something we hear a lot, that people now feel confident to share their website or to tell people, come visit me, or give their business card out because they feel confident in sharing this, the design and the message they're telling. So we were going to do a little bit of a guessing game, but to keep moving, like these are both, you know, attitudes, but see if you can see whether the questions are attitudes, behaviors, or conditions as we go. Another one would be, did they get more visitors to their website after the new design or website? And sometimes you can ask for this metric. If you're prepared, you can say like before and after, or you can just collect qualitative data, like, oh, all of a sudden I've got 10 entries in my contact form this week. So actually that is sort of quantitative, but because you don't have the before picture, you can kind of ask pictures like that.
And then just another thing to point out on this slide is where that research comes in that we were talking about a moment ago. There's a huge assumption that if somebody has a greater knowledge and skills, then they have a better well-being and living conditions. And there is research that we need to find that actually links those two things. Because if we say, does having increased confidence make people better at communicating their business, does having better business success actually lead to greater well-being and living conditions? So you can see, like, we're making a lot of assumptions that on the background there would have been a heap of research gone into. So, I mean, if we go back to that previous slide just with the puppies a second ago, so you can see on this slide, there's a bunch of assumptions here. And so when we're looking at our theory of change, well, why is training guide dogs the best idea? Well, because there's research that shows that people living with low vision need greater independence. That's what they've said that they want, and that training guide dogs actually leads to that. So let's just measure that what we're doing is actually achieving what we want. In a really simple way, if we were just measuring outputs, all we would be saying is number of dogs. And number of dogs tells us nothing. So we have to take it that next step and go, by training this many dogs, we had this much money, we trained this many dogs, this number of people have experienced this benefit in attitudes, behavior, and conditions. And that's the stuff that people are interested in. Okay, back to you.
Okay. That's true. Yeah, and and this research and stuff, and that's true. Some of these things we've found out because we've talked to the beneficiaries, and or because of things that they've said to us, like and at the stage that we're working with a lot of people at this time, they're launching a new business. So the before picture is it didn't exist, the picture now is it did exist, and they can share it out. So in this essence, we are kind of measuring a dramatic change for the positive, because it was nothing to something. And also we know that they've said that they were now able to share it out without fear that people would judge them and think their website wasn't very nice, or like they were not professional. And so we've heard anecdotal advice like that. So that's the kind of storytelling advice that storytelling pieces that are still really good in validating what you're doing, particularly when you're testing things out. And they're a quick way of seeing, did you help someone? But for sure, there's definitely going to be research on all of these things that you can bring in and go into depth with and make sure. We were hoping to do help everybody get into breakout rooms and have a little chat to each other. Yep. See if you can identify who are your beneficiaries. Firstly, what is the change you want to see for your beneficiaries? So perhaps that's your big vision, like reduced poverty, access to education, something like this. And what are some attitudes, behaviours or conditions that you could measure to see, are you on the right path for those beneficiaries towards your big picture goal? So I'm not sure, given the time now, maybe we should do a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, so what we might do, we're going to breakout rooms. We might just do like 2 or 3 people per group. And what you guys are going to do is we'll put these questions in the chat so you can see them, but have a chat about your social enterprise and make sure you're really clear on who are your customers and who are your beneficiaries, because in a social enterprise, as a general rule, they will be different. So have a bit of a chat about that. If you do need any help, we're going to regroup in a few minutes, but we're going to do, we'll just do 5 minutes. All right, so we've got sort of 3-ish people in each room. Rachel's put a chat over the top of my thing. Okay, we'll break out rooms, close in 5 minutes. All this admin stuff on the back end. All right, if you do need anything, you can always put your hand up and we can come and pop into breakout rooms and have a nosy. Are you by yourself in here? All right, so I want to goes quick.
Super fast. Oh my God.
I know. That was 6 minutes too, which that's all right. All right, Lara.
Okay. So it'd be really interesting to hear what you might have found out just then. Is there, now Leanne dobbed me into call someone out. Yeah, would you like to share if you found out anything surprising about your beneficiaries or the attitudes, behaviours and conditions you might measure?
Was this brand new for anybody? Like anybody just start from scratch going, I don't know, who is my beneficiary? Is there anybody who's like at that stage who'd never considered who their beneficiaries were before?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a couple in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to work through, well, who are the beneficiaries if it's environmental?
Exactly.
And then, how do we change our model to address that?
Yeah. And that's one of the things that people come up against a lot in an environmental one. I mean, I have had a student do an empathy map for Kevin the koala. Not how you do it. Why are they cutting down my trees? Like, oh, Kevin. But no, when we're doing an environmental one, we always have to look at the human-centered design aspect of it and go, okay, in order to have that environmental impact, we're hoping that humans make a change. We're hoping that humans have a change in attitude, behavior, conditions. What is that? And then what is the research that links that to the environmental impact? So we've got to kind of always bring that outcome stuff back to a human center. And then once you can do that, then you can measure the impact stuff. So amount of plastic picked up off the beach, but what is the behavior that we want people to change? So it always has to come back to that human-centered piece for the outcomes.
I'll just share my screen again.
Yeah, Google Scholar's great for that, Tanya. I lecture at university, so I have the university library, which I'm a bit of a nerd. Deb, how did you guys go with it?
Sorry, did you say Deb?
Yeah, Deb.
Sorry.
How about you, Deb? How did you guys go with it?
Hang on, I'm trying to unmute myself.
No, you're unmuted. You're all good.
Am I unmuted? Sorry. Okay. Well, I got stuck on the last one. It's obvious to me who my beneficiaries are, and it's obvious what our vision is and what we want for them. But I was unsure what the conditions were.
You don't have to have all of them. You may just pick one or two. You might pick one attitude and one behavior. You don't need all three.
Okay, so it's attitudes, behaviors, or conditions. So I suppose for us, it's
so your Lagoon
Creek one is a flexible workplace.
Yeah,
Would that be right?
potentially. What is it that you want your team in particular to experience? So you employ people with a learning disability at a cafe, is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So what is it that you want those individuals to experience? So you want them to have greater confidence, you want them to have
more independent,
greater skills, independence,
happiness,
cash handling, work-related skills, team building skills. So they're the things that you want, which lead to a better quality of life, which lead to reduced, let's say, reliance on NDIS. I don't know. But that's the biggest stuff. But what is it? So you're providing greater flexibility, but what is it that gives them? What do you want them to experience? So it might be a feeling of safety and security. It might be a feeling of belonging.
So Leanne, so I'm just trying to be clear myself. So when I'm wondering if that in Deb's case, are those people that work at the center actually the clients, and then the beneficiaries would be the third party coming into the, who might have impact by way of their own behavior change in some way, or
no, not generally, because we can't measure them. So if in the example of a cafe, the beneficiaries are the reason you started the business, and the reason you started the business was to give people employment, who like marginalized people employment. So they are absolutely our beneficiary, because it's the whole, we make coffee to employ people. We don't employ people to make coffee. So the reason the business started was to employ people. So they are our beneficiaries. So our entire theory of change is based on the experience of our marginalized employees. The customers, on the other hand, that's a whole other kettle of fish. If they have an indirect benefit, then that's cool. But that's not why the business started. The business started, so whether it's Malthana or Lagoon Creek or whoever else, that's the business started in order to create outcomes for this particular group of people. They are our beneficiaries. Our customers are different. Does that answer your question, Ricky?
Yeah, I mean, I guess essentially I'm just wondering situations at which your beneficiaries are also your customers, but
there's lots.
That's a whole separate, but okay, that's clear. Thank you for that.
Yeah, there's lots. So potentially with mine, my beneficiaries and my customers potentially are the same. If we're selling, let's say, services into schools, our beneficiaries are the kids. The customers are the principal who pays the money. So what is the attitude, behavior, and conditions we want to see in the kids, not what we want to see in the parents? If we're encouraging people to pick up rubbish, and we're doing that by selling, I don't know, stuffed toys. Customers buy the stuffed toys. The beneficiaries are the ones who are picking up the rubbish, who are making a behavior change, which then has an impact on the environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Did anyone else want to share what they've done? Who else? Can I pick on anybody?
Pick on me, Leanne.
Mariel, what have you got?
Well, I really have the curveball of it being the environmental impact thing. That is hard, because essentially my product uses 70% less water than the global average.
Yep.
But it only really works if then somebody looks after that product. I'm B2B mostly. I sell ethical fabrics to local companies that make
Yep.
products. And then if somebody designs that really well and it's something people want, it's probably going to last 4 or 5 times longer than the standard average t-shirt, for
Yep.
example.
Yeah.
How on earth? And then the other beneficiaries are jobs, because it's all local manufactured as much as possible.
Okay.
So it's
Yep.
more how to tell the story about the flip, because it's what it's not. We know every stage of the supply chain. We know there's no slavery. We know there's no exploitation.
Yep.
We know everything's safe at every stage. So it's more about an avoidance.
Mhm.
How do we frame that?
So potentially for something like that, you can look at talking about your outputs and the impact of the outputs.
Yeah, so a sort of reduced impact, because it always feels really disingenuous to me. It's like the more you buy, the more you save, and it just, it feels crass.
Yeah. Yeah, but if people are going to buy it anyway,
yeah,
then what is the outcome potentially in conditions for your purchases?
Yeah.
So the outcome and the change in conditions for your purchases is that piece of clothing used this much less water.
Yeah.
So there is a change in conditions because they're not contributing as much to the unethical supply chain. Yeah, exactly. So you can look at it that way as well.
Cool, thank you.
Let me have a look. Oh, hello, Oliver. On the topic of environment, if anyone is working towards making an effort for environmental conservation in Queensland, send your details. I can. Yeah, cool. So there's a message in the chat there from Oliver. All right, Lara, back to you, mother.
Oh, all right. Now this isn't a really exciting tool, a website. So I'll just share over. Has this screen loaded the new website?
Yep.
Not my slide? Great.
Yeah, no, all good.
Great. Now, a lot of your social enterprises might be focused on social elements and community elements. And if that is the case, then this is going to be a really, really valuable website for you. So for instance, say you're a jobs focused social enterprise and you're looking for, what do you ask? I mean, just like there was a question in the chat just before, how do you ask about something a bit intangible? So an attitude or an emotional state or a feeling. So this is a great resource for this. So for instance, say we want to look at positive work attitudes and behaviors. We can come here, click on that, and for each one of those little purple buttons earlier, and for all of the buttons on the tree, it'll give you 2 questions on this page that you can kind of get going with. So let's see. So it's saying, think about your work-related attitudes and behaviors. This is for your beneficiary to answer, of course. So then it lists what they are: positive attitude, confidence, skills relevant to the workplace. How has this changed for you since coming to the service? You might change that to say, how has this changed for you since working at my, this place, or since doing this workshop? And you can start to see, yes, it's how, if it's changed for the better or not. And then they have another question: how do you think your service made a positive contribution to your work-related attitudes and behaviours? So these are 2 pre-vetted questions that you can start to ask. So you can, these can be asked in lots of ways, not just a survey. They can be asked in interviews, they can be asked in a focus group, they can, you can keep your eye out for them, and we're going to go over that in a moment. I'll just pop back to that tree. It might also be a great way of you thinking, okay, I'm looking into women's safety issues. I want to improve women's sense of safety. But you're like, oh, what do I start to measure? What's under safety? What does safety mean? Oh, okay. Hover over this, and we've got safe where you live, safe relationships, safe environment. That's already covering a couple of conditions and behaviours in this section here. So it might be a place where you can get ideas for, oh, this is what I could ask to measure, do the people taking part in my program feel more safe at home because of my program, for instance. And so you can have a, okay, let's click on that safe where I live. And you have a question for it, and you can ask this in different places. I'll pop back over to our slides because there's a little bit more about this here. So the website, this same website, Community Services Outcome Tree, they have excellent question sets in Word documents that really give a lot of context. So first up, it's talking about the outcome, which is great because you can match that to your outcomes. So you've got your theory of change and you've had a look at what outcomes are you theoretically targeting, and you can say, yes, I'm definitely targeting social emotional health. And this is a little bit of information for you to kind of say, understand what you're asking. So you know what you're asking and gathering information on. Then we have the actual question and the other actual question. And there's heaps more information about how to set this out. And it tells you a bit more about how to set out your survey tool and things like that. So I just got this toolbars in the way, but anyway, yeah. So if I click on these, it just downloads a Word document and we won't be able to see that together. So I won't click on it, but just know that this is here and it's a really valuable resource. And these questions, something great about these questions is they've been designed, tested, vetted, you know, they're valuable questions, like quality questions. And this is where you can start to ask about those, what was the question? Intangible, oh yeah, increasing confidence. So yes, you could, one of these questions might be, since coming to this service preparation for getting a job, for instance, thinking about your confidence, has it increased a little bit, increased a lot, no increase? You know, it will have questions like this and you can get people to start to answer that. The other part of that puzzle, of course, is how and how and where. Where have we got it? Another great link. So how and where will you ask these questions? And this is another place where you can start learning, okay, how can I do a really good survey? Or how can I do a great interview? And these are ways that you can actually get that data from people. So those are two really common ones, but they go into more creative methods down here. Case studies, observations. You might be able to observe this in your work, because like you can see that from when you first hired Caitlin to a year later, you can actually see her confidence and you can tell the story about that. So it's both self-reported from Caitlin, your employee's point of view, and also observational from your point of view because you're there. And this will help you. And if you come over here, it kind of takes you through information on why you might use it and how you might use it in a kind of official experimental data taking way. So these are some ways that I have put together just from like brainstorming ways that you can collect data. So we want to basically be able to collect both types of data. Ideally, they're both important.
Because the other thing you might do in that last slide, and we're going to wrap up in a second,
sure,
is in that last slide, if you take some of these questions, you might say, can you give an example? So if somebody then gives an example, that's then your qualitative, and you can use that information when reflecting on the changes that people made. So you might ask a quantitative question, which is 83% of people said that they improved their social emotional health to a large extent. Here are some examples. These are some of the changes that people made. And you can see that it says, as a result of this service, do you think that this service So it's really clear on its attribution to your intervention. And so that's a really important part of the question.
So we will, so these are some ideas. We can share this so you can kind of have this as reference, but there's lots of ways you can start to gather both of these types of data. We were going to do it, we're not doing that activity at the moment. So just quickly on to the next steps. Once you've collected this data, the next step is to make sense of it. There are people that can help you make sense of that. There's also impact reporting on the QUALC, which Leanne will take you through in a moment. And there's all sorts of things once you have that data. How do you interpret it, whether it's facts and stats, and whether you get somebody like the Australian Spatial Analytics if you've got lots and lots of big factual data to go through, or say you've got a lot of great stories. Digital Storytellers did that course with a lot of Queensland social enterprises, I think in 2020, and we all got to tell our stories through video, and that was really powerful. And that's another way of expressing your impact through stories, like qualitative data and examples, and showing things happening in action. But yeah, seeing as we, and then there's heaps more resources here, so I'll make sure that that is shared back. And of course, if you would like to sign up to my newsletter, I'm working on a course or a series of short courses on impact measurement. So I will keep everybody up to date on the newsletter, as well as social media and QSEC newsletter and things like that, I'm sure, as well. So please sign up to my newsletter if you'd like to. And I can also help people with clarity sessions on getting clear on what your impact is and how you might start to measure that. I have an offering on my website for free sessions for a limited amount of pro bono clients. And I can also help people with making your impact reports all at the other end. So that's like design wise, rather than somebody else can help you interpret that data, but I can like help you design it. And yeah, basically I hope this was really useful today and can get you off on the right foot, starting to measure these outcomes. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys found that useful. Here at QSEC also, if you did want to book in a session, we do have some sessions potentially coming up where you'll be able to sit down and work with me maybe and work through your theory of change and work through all this sort of stuff. Yeah, this is one of those things that we, like I said, we do often put it in the too hard basket. We're so busy doing the work that we forget to actually measure and market the work, because that's just how things work. There is a lot of nuance in it. So we have done a huge sweeping overview. The really important things to take away are the difference between outputs and income, outcome and impact. If you can clarify those in your mind, that will start to help you get a really good footing. That will start to give you a really good footing on on what questions to ask, who you're asking questions of, how you're going to ask these questions, what you're going to do with the data. So getting a really clear theory of change is really important. So for those of you who would like to stick around, I'm going to show you the online learning center and some of the courses that we've got that really back up this information. So if you're going to hang around, please do, and I'll start sharing. Other than that, if you've got to go, you've got to go, so to speak. And Lara, thank you so much. And Lara's going to share all of her lovely links. That community services outcomes tree is just, I'm literally doing impact measurement this week, and asking the questions and looking for validated surveys and digging into academic research. Not fun. But something like the outcomes tree just makes it so much easier. But yeah, so it's up to you guys. But thank you so much, Lara. And again, if you guys have any questions later, please feel free to ask.
Thanks. Thank you, Leanne.
You're a champion. Love your work. All right. I'm gonna, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna stop recording because, where's all the things? All right, I'm gonna stop share. I'm gonna stop recording.